Dunton Locks Pottery is located 2 miles south of Detroit Lakes, off Highway 59 by Dunton Locks Park. Open daily 11 to 4. For a closer look at Phil Holton's wood turning, call 346-4780.
My name is Mary Lobbs, and I'm here at my shop, Dunton Locks Pottery. This is where I create and display my pottery. I'm located just a couple miles south of Detroit Lakes off Highway 59, right by Dunton Locks County Park. I'm open daily, 11 to 4 through the summer, and then in the fall, on weekends till the snow flies. If you're interested in seeing how I make this pottery, follow me down to my studio and I'll give you some demonstrations. Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make a mug for my coffee. I'm going to have a little drink first, a little energy. Okay, now I start out with a ball clay, and that's exactly what it is. I've just made the clay into a ball. And the reason why it's called throwing clay and throwing pots is this. You just throw it right onto the wheel. Now I center it a little more. It's important to get the clay centered when we're throwing. You notice I'm standing right above the pot, my head is, and that's so I can see what I'm doing from a aerial position here. Now I'm spinning that around, and do you see how that looks like that's wobbling a little bit? That means that's not centered. So what I'm going to do is take my hands, wet them up real good, and press on it and center it. Okay, right now that's pretty well centered. Now I always keep my hands very wet. That works as the lubricant so it slides by. Now I'm taking my thumbs and I'm driving right down the center. Now basically I've gotten about that far to the bottom, and that's going to be my base. I'm going to take my thumbs and I'm going to drive them out to the side. And that's going to be my bottom. Now I have kind of a donut shape in here, so what I'm doing now is I'm pressed in and then I'm going to pull my hands straight up like that for the walls. Now this looks like a really large mug here, and right now it is. Although during the firing process all clay will shrink about 12 to 15%. Now what I'm doing with this tool is I'm just going to make a flat bottom here. Really can't probably see from that position, but I'm making this nice and flat here. Now the key is to try to make your walls consistent. I'm just going to veer that in a little bit and up. It's very soothing to make pottery. Okay, that's nice and smooth. I've kind of given it a flared out base there. That's kind of nice because it won't tip very easy that way. Now I'm smoothing, I'm taking this rib here and I'm just smoothing the edge so it's nice and smooth there. Taking my fingers, smoothing those. Now to remove the pot, what I'm going to do is take my wire tool here. It's a little wire tool, and what I do is I press it straight out like that, almost like a guitar string, and then I set it on the wheel and I slide it under. But before I do that, I take a little water, I set it there, and I pull that water right underneath here like this. And that separates the pot. Now I'll pull it real tight again and do it one more time. Now I have to dry my hands before I pick it up. That makes the pot stick to my hands a little bit. So I'm taking it like this. I'm going to dump out any water. And I'm just setting it right there and reshaping it. Okay, I've cleaned my wheel off here and I've removed this pot, this small pot, which is going to be a mug. And I right now it's real soft. The clay is real supple. But I want to show you how I trim the bottom and I put a handle on it. So I have another one right here that is kind of a little more dry. It's easier to handle, but it's still at the leather hard stage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this plaster back. I'm going to center this on the wheel. Make sure that's right in the middle, and I'm just checking it right now so that's nice and centered. Now what I do is I take 2 pieces of clay and I attach them to the wheel and the piece of pottery, and that keeps it into position. And now I'm going to trim the bottom edge so I don't have this sharp edge here. That would look real unattractive if I expect to make a nice piece of pottery. So basically what I'm doing here is I'm just holding this tool and I'm just smoothing that all off. And it just gives a nice attractive bottom to it. Now I take this rib and I'm just pressing gently on it and smoothing it. And now what I'm going to do real quick is sign my name to it. I just put an M and an L. I remove the clay pieces. And now I am ready to put the handle on. Now I'm at what is called my slab roller. This here mechanism is pretty neat because what it does is it rolls out clay to an exact consistency. And right now I want clay for my handle to be about 1/4 of an inch thick. So I pull back these claws and I just set this piece of clay in here and I put the cloth back up, the cotton cloth, and that just gives it a nice smooth surface. I flip these over and I roll this with this crank. And I bring this over and I have a piece of clay. Okay. I'm ready to put the handle on my pot. So the first thing I do is I take this piece of clay that I just worked on over here. Normally this is a lot longer of a piece of clay. I just didn't grab enough for my sample. But what I'm doing is you take a straight edge, ruler, whatnot, and then I take my X-Acto knife straight above and I cut it down like that. And I set it over here and I make sure that it's even from one end to another. Hold that down and I cut that too. Okay. So normally this would be a lot longer, obviously, but what we're going to do is attach this to this. Now, because this is real wobbly, it's fresh clay, I always let these dry a little bit. There's many different ways to make handles. This is just one of them that I've chosen today. So now what I do is I take my pot and I actually score, this is called scoring, a little mark into my piece of pottery. I'm digging in little sections of where I want my handle to be. These are pieces here that I've already preformed. I think I'll take this one. Do you see how this one is a little firmer, but yet it's still soft enough to use? I'll be attaching that there. So I'll bring that in a little bit like this. But now what I want to do, I've scored that like that. I want to do the same thing to my handle. So I'm just taking this sharp X-Acto knife and making grooves in it. Now I take what's called slip, and slip is just very watered down clay. It's like soup, thick soup. Now I take that and I apply it to my surface of my clay here, and then also to the area here. Basically it's soft, liquidy clay, so because this isn't totally dry yet, it'll soften also the clay on this pot and also the handle. Now what I do is I can set this down and expect that it is quite firm because it's not fresh off the wheel, so it's a little firmer. So what I'm doing is I'm pressing in like that, applying that, pressing in here. And now what I do, I have made some of these interesting little pieces here. I've pre-carved some designs in the end of clay and then high fired them. And now what they are is they work out as beautiful little stamps. So I just press that right in there like that. And that makes a pretty little design on each end. And that also super adheres it to the piece of pottery. Now also what I'll be doing is I'll dip my hands in water and soften up all of these edges here so that that's nice and soft. And then I'll reshape that to my desired shape and I'll have a nice little mug.
Mary Lobbs lives and works as an artist in the Northwoods of Minnesota. Inspired by nature, all her pottery is wheel-thrown and hand-carved. See these and others at Dunton Locks Pottery.